Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back, not just decades or centuries, but tens of thousands of years, into a world both utterly alien and intimately familiar. You're not scrolling through a feed or lying beneath electric lights. Instead, imagine yourself surrounded by a vast, primal silence. No cities, no roads, no phones buzzing on your nightstand. Just the slow rhythm of wind brushing against ancient grasslands and the distant howls of predators hunting beneath unfamiliar stars. It's the Pleistocene, the last ice age, and you're not alone, not by a long shot. The Earth is alive with giants. Mammoths roam the tundra, saber-toothed cats stalk the shadowy forests, and towering glaciers crawl across the continents like sleeping beasts. But more astonishing than the animals is this truth. You are not the only kind of human. You are one of many. And honestly, you're not even the most impressive one in the bunch. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when people are listening. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch beside a river, the water ice cold on your hands. Your tribe is behind you, gathered around a fire pit as twilight darkens the sky. You glance across the wide plain and freeze. There, silhouetted in the distance, another band of hunters stands watching you. But they aren't like you. Their shoulders are broader. Their faces are heavy-browed, powerful. Neanderthals. Not monsters, not myths. Just a different kind of people. People who share your upright gait, your campfire warmth, your need for shelter and stories. They're not a threat. Not yet. Just different. Now pull the camera back. Way back. Across continents, across islands, across mountains and oceans. This planet, our home, is teeming with humans, but not just your kind. Far to the east, in a dark Siberian cave, another girl crouches by the fire. She's Denisovan. You'd never know her name. You'll never meet her. But her kind, too, walks upright and thinks in symbols and tends to their young. Zoom farther south, to the tangled jungles and ancient volcanoes of Indonesia. Here, a strange sight. A group of tiny humans, 3 feet tall at most, with long arms and wide feet, wielding stone tools as they stalk pygmy elephants through the underbrush. Homo floresiensis, the hobbits. Their brains are small, but their fire burns just as brightly as yours. Even older lineages cling to life in remote corners. In parts of Asia, fossil whispers suggest the last echoes of Homo erectus may still be out there, holding on as the world changes around them. It's a moment in time that no modern human would believe unless you could see it yourself. A moment where you are not special. You are one species in a rich, branching family tree. Imagine how different your bedtime stories would be if Neanderthals had their own bedtime stories. If hobbits and Denisovans had their own myths, their own gods, their own lullabies whispered in the dark. This is not science fiction. This is real. For millions of years, Earth was never home to a single kind of human. The idea of the human, as in singular capital H human, is a modern invention. In truth, the world once echoed with humanities. Plural. A dozen paths branching from the same root. And now, only you remain. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's slow down. You are one of those early Homo sapiens, born from the warm cradle of Africa, and now taking your first uncertain steps into a world of many peoples. You don't know it yet, but the choices you make, how you survive, how you think, how you cooperate, will one day lead to a stunning and terrible reality, that yours will be the last voice left, the last human standing. But here, now, you're just another face in the crowd, just another young hunter with a sharpened flint blade, listening to the wind, smelling for mammoth herds, and wondering what lies over the next hill. And to be honest, you probably won't survive this. The world is brutal. Ice and fire war across continents. Megafauna roam in numbers and sizes your modern imagination can't quite grasp. One wrong move, one harsh season, one bad wound, and your line ends here. Even if you do survive, you'll be changed. You'll encounter cousins who challenge your sense of self. You'll mate with them, fight them, learn from them. You'll absorb them or outlive them. You'll invent tools and gods and myths. You'll cross ocean, and one day, you'll look around and realize there are no other people left. Just you. It's a mystery, really. We were once so many, and now only one remains. Historians still argue whether this was due to sheer brilliance, ruthless conquest, blind luck, or something else entirely. But that's the story we're about to tell. Not just how we lived, but why everyone else didn't. How a family of 10 or more dwindled to one, and what that means for you, lying there now, wrapped in a blanket while the world outside still hums with ancient echoes. So close your eyes. Picture the earth as it was before you took the throne. A place of strange skies, stranger neighbors, and 1,000 possibilities. Because tonight, you walk among them. The grass crunches softly beneath your feet as you walk beneath a sun that has watched over this continent for hundreds of millennia. You are back where it all began. Africa. But not a modern Africa. There are no cities, no borders. The land stretches in a patchwork of open savanna, tangled forest, and wide, shimmering wetlands. Herds of antelope scatter at your scent. A lion's roar echoes in the distance, low and thunderous, reminding you who truly rules the land. Your people, Homo sapiens, have been here for hundreds of thousands of years, and you are one of them. You glance at your own reflection in the still water of a shallow stream. Your face is not Neanderthal-like, not hobbit-like, not heavy with ancient ridges. It's familiar. High forehead, rounded skull, a narrow jaw. You'd look completely at home in the aisles of a grocery store or scrolling on a smartphone, aside from the fact you're barefoot, hungry, and clutching a sharpened stick. You are not large, not particularly strong, not covered in thick, insulating fur. Your tribe isn't immune to the drought or the predators or the slow-moving clouds of disease. In the grand scheme of survival, you're not a winner. Not yet. Your only clear advantage? That oversized, energy-hungry brain riding on top of your spine. And even that, at this point, hasn't revealed its full hand. Life is hard. You rise with the sun and move all day in search of food. You follow the animals. You dig for roots. You hurl rocks at birds. You sleep in makeshift shelters that keep out wind, but not much else. There are no houses, no towns, no stores. Just the endless rhythm of season after season. Your tools are sharp-edged stones, hand axes chipped from flint. fire when you can make it is precious, a flickering guardian in the darkness. You aren't the only kind of human on the move, but here in Africa, this is your land. Your mother shows you how to peel bark to find grubs. Your father demonstrates how to read animal tracks. Around the fire at night, your small band, maybe 20, maybe 30 people, huddles close, swapping knowledge not through books or screens, but through calloused hands and careful eyes. At this point in history, you are unremarkable, just another hominin species among many. In fact, if there were a prehistoric popularity contest, Homo sapiens wouldn't even place in the top 3. You are not yet global. You've never seen snow. You've never set foot in Europe or Asia or anywhere beyond this continent. You are local, modest, and, let's be honest, barely hanging on. And yet, something is simmering. Inside your skull, behind your deep brown eyes, something is shifting. Slowly, subtly, the kind of shift that doesn't show up in the fossil record, not at first. But the clues are there. Your skull is more rounded, with a larger frontal lobe. Your face is flatter. Your fingers more dexterous. Compared to your ancestors, there's a slight tilt toward something new, something strange. Not physical strength, but mental range. The brain has always been expensive. It takes up a disproportionate amount of energy. So why has evolution doubled down on this costly organ? Historians still argue whether this was simply a fluke or the quiet start of something intentional. Was this brain expansion the product of environmental stress, social complexity, sexual selection, a mix of everything? Or was it just blind luck? Whatever the reason, you're carrying a prototype for something that will eventually transform the entire world. A mind capable not just of reacting, but of imagining. It's not obvious yet. You're still mostly responding to your environment, not transforming it. You don't yet build villages, you don't farm, you don't worship gods carved into stone. But your dreams are getting more complex. Your language, not quite modern, but evolving, is able to describe things not directly in front of you. You can tell someone about the lion you saw yesterday, even if the lion is long gone. You can describe what might happen tomorrow. You can suggest new hunting strategies, new paths to take, and perhaps most revolutionary of all, you can lie. Lying, after all, is a kind of imagination, and imagination, in the long run, is going to be your secret weapon. Not yet, though. Right now, you're just a parent teaching your child to nap a stone, or a teenager watching the moon rise, wondering what it means, or a leader trying to convince a few grumpy relatives that, no, they really do need to move to the next waterhole. It's all so ordinary. And yet this ordinariness is pregnant with revolution. Elsewhere, Neanderthals are going about their lives, strong and efficient. Denisovans wander the mountain valleys of Central Asia. The hobbits huddle beneath banyan trees on their warm, lonely island. None of them have any idea what's coming. Neither do you. For now, you are still part of the crowd. Still one more face among the many variations of the human story. Still just surviving. But your brain is stirring, and when it fully awakens, the world will never be the same again. The wind is drier here. The soil feels unfamiliar beneath your feet. You glance behind you. Your kin are there, hunched under animal skins, moving carefully through the craggy hills. You've left behind the familiar mosaic of African valleys and plains. This is new land. The trees are different. The stars slightly shifted. It's colder, harsher. Welcome to the Levant, somewhere around 120,000 years ago. You're part of something bold, the first great human adventure. Your group has traveled far, farther than any before you. You've crossed natural barriers that held your ancestors in check. This is the first real attempt at an exodus, and you're proud, a little nervous, and also not alone. Because in the distance, tucked into a limestone cliff, another fire glows. You hear the faint clatter of flint striking flint. Shapes move in the shadows, too large for wolves, too upright for bears. They are people, but not your people. Neanderthals. They've been here for a long time. This is their backyard, their territory. Their tools are buried deep in the soil here, and their scent clings to the ancient trees. They know this land in ways you don't. You watch them from a distance at first. The way they move, solid and deliberate. Their arms are thick with muscle. They don't laugh the same way you do. Their language, if they speak it, is clipped and hard to decipher. But they have fires, families, food. At first, you try to stay out of their way. You hunt smaller prey, hares, lizards, birds. You camp where they don't. But there's only so much land, and only so many caves. You find yourself crossing paths, competing. Your stone points are sharp, but so are theirs. You carry spears, but theirs are heavier, better for thrusting up close. They don't chase herds, they ambush them. Brutal, efficient, coordinated. You try to trade, maybe even communicate, but it doesn't last. Tensions rise, a kill is taken, a cave is occupied, a line is crossed. Eventually, someone throws the first stone. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's them. Still, this isn't a war. It's attrition. Friction. A quiet rivalry played out across decades, then centuries. You try to adapt, to carve out a place in this unfamiliar land, but the odds are against you. Then the climate turns. The rains dry up, the cold creeps in. Game becomes scarce. The rivers you relied on for water dwindle to muddy trickles. Even your own people begin to whisper doubts. Some vanish in the night, trying to find a way home. Others fall ill and never rise again. The Neanderthals endure. They've lived through this before. Their ancestors hunted mammoth across glacial plains. They know how to read the signs in the rock and wind. You don't. Eventually your band fractures. You break into smaller groups, scavenging what little remains. You look south, toward the way you came. Toward Africa. The journey back is hard, but staying would be suicide. And so you return. The first great human migration ends not in triumph, but in quiet retreat. A humbled withdrawal, not unlike a child sneaking back into a house they once stormed out of. Historians still debate why this first wave failed. Was it the Neanderthals' superior strength and experience? Was it the sudden cold snap that swept through the region? Or was it just bad timing? Maybe all of the above. Maybe none. But the lesson sticks with you, deep in your collective memory. You are not invincible. This world does not owe you survival. For now, you are not the dominant species. You are just one Azuman of many, trying your best to stay alive. Back in Africa, you find familiar landscapes and safer ground. But something has shifted. Your people are different now. Wiser, sharper. You carry stories of the Neanderthals, these other humans with terrifying strength and strange customs. The memory of them stays with you. So does the knowledge that leaving home is dangerous, but necessary. Failure has taught you something even success couldn't. Adaptation is everything. You return not as victims, but as students of a brutal curriculum. And deep in your skull, the fire of imagination stirs once more. The failure of your first journey has planted a seed, a hunger. You weren't ready then, but you will be. Because next time, when you leave Africa again, you'll bring something different. Not just sharper spears or warmer furs, but new kinds of thoughts, words that bind, ideas that spread. You'll bring fire, not just the one that burns wood, but the one that reshapes minds. And next time, you won't be turned back. You sit beside the fire again, but something is different, not in the flames. They still flicker and dance, licking at the edges of dry acacia branches. Not in the stars. They still crowd the night sky with their ancient, unknowable shimmer. No, the change is deeper. Inside your head. You can feel it. You're still in Africa. It's maybe 70,000 years ago. But the person beside you just made a joke about your poor aim with a spear earlier today, and everyone laughed. Not because it was hilarious, but because you all understood the layered meaning behind it. The teasing, the affection, the history. You can speak now, really speak, not just grunt and gesture. You share stories around the fire. You talk about things that happened days ago, things that might happen tomorrow. Things that never happened, but could. A lion with wings, a spirit that lives in the mountain, a monster that punishes those who steal from the elders. Welcome to your brain's greatest invention, imagination. This is the moment when your species starts cheating the rules, not through claws or fangs, but through thoughts. Thoughts that connect. Thoughts that bind. You're in the midst of what some scientists call the cognitive revolution. But you, of course, don't call it anything. It just feels natural, like waking up and realizing the world has more layers than you ever noticed before. You gossip now. Oh yes, your people love gossip. Who's been sneaking extra food? Who's courting whom? Who claimed they saw a spirit in the cave, but was probably just high on fermented fruit? And here's the thing, gossip isn't trivial, it's survival. Knowing who to trust, who lies, who's generous, who's impulsive. It's like social radar. It helps your small band of 30 or so function without collapsing into chaos. It allows you to coordinate hunts, to share duties, to discipline cheaters and freeloaders. But it goes deeper. Now, you can talk about things that don't exist at all, at least not physically. You believe your tribe was formed by the sky animal, who laid the world in 7 days of thunder. Another band across the river believes the first people emerged from a tree struck by lightning. And though you've never met, though your bodies are lean and hungry and busy avoiding predators, if you were to meet and both revered the same sky animal, you'd trust each other. You could cooperate. That's never happened before in the history of Earth. Neanderthals can trust kin. You can trust strangers, so long as they believe the same invisible thing. Historians still argue whether the capacity for belief came suddenly, like a light switch flicked on, or if it emerged slowly over thousands of years. Was it a random mutation? A new neural pathway? A cultural accident passed down from an especially imaginative grandmother? No one knows. But the change is visible. You start carving shapes into bone. At first, just hash marks, maybe counting days. Then more elaborate, beads made from ostrich shells, paint smeared on cave walls in red and ochre. a carved figurine of something that's part lion, part man. These aren't just decorations, they're symbols. Symbols that carry meaning beyond the moment. And tools. Oh, the tools. You used to make sharp edges. Now you make specialized tools, scrapers for hide, awls for piercing, composite weapons with multiple parts. The pace of innovation is accelerating. Ideas spread not just by observation, but by instruction. You can explain how to make something. That means a child in one valley can learn a method developed in another and replicate it perfectly. Even fire becomes more than warmth. It's a place of memory, where stories are told and retold. And stories, well, stories are your people's superpower. The cave paintings come next. You crouch low, torch in hand, and blow ochre pigment through a reed onto the stone. Your handprint remains. So does the image of a buffalo, head lowered, mid-charge, forever caught in motion. These are not idle doodles. These are messages to the future. And they are proof. You are living not just in the moment, but in time. You remember the past. You imagine the future. And you are beginning to ask why you're even here at all. Compared to Neanderthals, you are physically unimpressive, but you've stumbled into something they haven't. Fiction. And fiction is more dangerous than any predator on the savannah. Because fiction lets you believe. Believe in ancestors, in totems, in roles, rules, and rituals. You can convince 10 people to hunt together, 20 to move camp, 50 to punish a thief, and soon 100 to follow a chief whose only real power is an idea, a shared story about why they should lead. You're not dominating the earth yet, but the clock has started. You still don't know it, sitting there by the fire with your child curled at your side and the stars overhead. You're just telling a story, just dreaming aloud, but you've already cracked the code. And when you walk again to the edges of Africa, this time, you'll bring more than muscle and hunger. You'll bring the thing no other creature on Earth has. A story. The salt wind stings your face as you scan the horizon. A pale dawn spills over the ocean, and the sky is vast, endless. Behind you, the red dust of Africa stretches back across generations of your ancestors. Ahead lies something new. You've come to the edge again, the rim of the world you know. But this time you don't turn back. It's around 70,000 years ago. You're part of the second great wave. And this time, you're not just walking, you're expanding. Not in a grand exodus. You're not marching with banners or maps or declarations. It's subtler than that. One family moves across the river because the game is better there. A child grows up and finds a mate from another band, and they settle one valley farther east. Generation by generation, you ripple outward, not like a conqueror, but like a tide. And this time, you have help. Not from gods or beasts, but from your own brain. You've got language now, rich and nuanced. You can tell someone how to make a new type of blade, and they can teach others. A new hunting trick discovered in one band can, within a few generations, spread hundreds of miles. You're connected, and those connections are your secret weapon. As you leave Africa, you stay close to the coast. The sea is generous. Shellfish, crabs, seabirds. They don't run away like gazelle. They don't bite like hyenas. They're just there, waiting to be collected and cooked. You become what some historians call beachcomber sapiens. Tan, clever, and very well fed. The coastline becomes your highway. Your movements are slow but relentless. You follow the contours of the Red Sea, the Arabian Peninsula, skirting along the edge of what is now India, and eventually reaching Southeast Asia. And beyond. The world is vast, but you are patient. And unlike your earlier attempt, this time you are more than just clever animals. You're cultural beings now. You carry with you not only tools and fire, but songs, myths, kinship names, and animal taboos and spirits that watch from the trees. You belong to something larger than your body, something invisible, yet powerful. Back in Africa, a band is struggling after a drought. But here, in the green coastal marshes of a new land, your relatives are thriving. And word gets back. Not by email or letter, of course, but by marriage alliances, by traded objects, by songs that travel with wanderers. This is your first global network. And it's not made of wires. It's made of stories. And you need it, because the further you push, the weirder the world becomes. New animals, strange trees. The sky looks slightly different. You learn to adapt faster than your body can evolve. No thick fur. Sew a coat. No claws. Carve a sharper blade. You don't wait for natural selection to fix things. You fix them yourself. And yet, everywhere you go, you find that you are not alone. On the steppes of Central Asia, a faint trail of footprints mixes with yours. They're shaped like yours, but deeper, wider. Your cousins are here, the Denisovans. Their eyes watch you from forests you haven't yet entered. In the colder western lands, Neanderthals still hunt. They've not yet noticed you, but they will. Each step you take out of Africa brings you closer to them, and closer to confrontation. But for now, the world is still open. The doors are unlocked, and you're slipping through them one by one. You reach the islands of Indonesia, and somehow, miraculously, ingeniously, you begin to cross the water. Your rafts are crude, lashed logs, woven vines. But they float, and they hold together long enough to carry your kin across channels into strange, isolated worlds where the animals are unlike anything you've ever seen. And soon, you reach Australia. Yes, Australia, nearly 65,000 years ago. Before the pyramids, before farming, before any written word, your people are already walking through eucalyptus forests, dodging cassowaries, and marveling at kangaroos. It's an open question how you made those ocean crossings. Historians still debate whether it was planned or accidental. Did a group set out with the stars in their heads and landfall in their hearts? Or did a storm blow a raft adrift? And when they survived, they went back for others. Whichever it was, the result is the same. Your species is no longer local. You are planetary, and your expansion doesn't slow down. You begin to inhabit deserts and jungles, mountains and islands. Every ecosystem you enter, you reshape, sometimes gently, sometimes with devastating speed. But it's never random. You move with purpose, with community, and with memory. Because behind every step is a reason, and beside every fire is a tale. You are not just walking across the world. You are mapping it, in your mind, in your myths, and in the genes of your children. Soon, you'll meet your cousins face to face. But for now, you are still the wind moving through the grass. A whisper, a rumor, a ripple that will soon become a wave. The last wave the world will ever need. The air here smells different, colder, thinner. The trees are darker, denser. The sky, when not veiled by cloud, is sharp and pale, like ice in your lungs. You've made it to Europe. It's around 45,000 years ago, and you are standing on the threshold of a strange new world. You've never seen snow before, or frost hardening the soil in the early morning, or animals this massive, mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant deer with antlers wider than your shelter is long. The land is harsh, but bountiful, if you know how to read it. And someone does. They're already here, the Neanderthals. You see them first from a distance, a family crouched around a kill. Their movements are deliberate, efficient. One uses a flint scraper to peel the hide from a reindeer. Another lifts a chunk of meat into a leather sling. A child, barely 3 feet tall, sits nearby gnawing on a rib bone. An older man, scarred and slow-moving, leans heavily on a carved stick, his joints stiff, but his gaze alert. You freeze. They don't attack. They glance your way, then turn back to their task. They're not beasts, not monsters. They're just different, broader, stockier, built for cold. A Neanderthal's barrel chest and wide nose are adaptations you haven't needed back in warmer lands. Their brow ridges cast shadows over deep-set eyes. You could almost mistake them for a particularly rugged uncle, until they move. Their gait is heavier, more grounded. Still, when you look at them, something unspoken stirs in you. A recognition. They are not like the other animals. Not like anything else you've seen. They are people. And they are home. You are the outsider. They've been here for hundreds of thousands of years. Long before your people even learned to fish oysters. They hunted these forests when your ancestors were still confined to a single continent. Their tools, carefully chipped flint spearheads, known today as Mosterian tools, have evolved with the rhythm of the Ice Age itself. And their lives are rich in ways you didn't expect. You once believed you were the only ones who buried your dead, who remembered the fallen. But here, in this cave, you find something sobering. A Neanderthal child, interred with a few bones carefully arranged around her, as if to offer company in the afterlife. Red ochre stains the soil near her skull. A ritual? An accident? Historians still argue whether it was true symbolism or just convenient disposal. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Someone cared enough to cover her, to place her gently. That speaks volumes. Their tools may be different, but they are not crude. Their shelters are well built. They know how to manage fire, how to process hides, how to butcher large game with skill. They thrive in environments that would freeze you solid in a day without proper preparation. And perhaps most surprising of all, they have art. Not the elaborate cave murals you'll later make, but clues exist. Eagle talons worn as jewelry. Pieces of pigment cached near habitual sleeping areas. A scalloped shell that looks suspiciously like it was painted. These aren't just actions of survival. These are hints of identity. You begin to realize something uncomfortable. They're not some failed experiment. They're not a stepping stone to you. They are another way to be human. Just one that's different. Their strength is legendary. The way they bring down prey involves inevitable risk. Getting close, using thrusting spears, battling mammoth and bison and bear in terrifying close quarters. Their bones carry the cost. Fractures, compressed spines, injuries eerily similar to those seen in modern-day rodeo riders. They pay for every meal in blood and bone, and yet they endure. At night, your band huddles by the fire. You whisper about them. You wonder, do they speak? Do they sing? What gods do they fear? What dreams do they dream? One of your elders saw a Neanderthal once, not far from here. Said the woman was kneeling in the snow, her hand pressed to the chest of a dying companion, humming a low, mournful sound. The elder can't say if it was a song or just breath. But that sound haunts him still. There's no clear line between your people and theirs, no battle, no declaration. Just quiet coexistence. For now. But you know it won't last, because the world is changing. And when things change, only some survive. For now, you keep your distance. Watch. Learn. You see the way they move through their world, not with the sharp fear of prey, but with the grounded authority of something built to last. They belong here. And for the first time you ask yourself, do you? You awaken to a silence so complete it hums in your ears. Snow has blanketed the entrance of your shelter overnight, muting the sounds of the forest. The world outside is a frozen cathedral of blue light and drifting mist. Somewhere out there, your cousins, the Neanderthals, are awake too. They live just a valley over. You've never spoken, never traded, but you've watched them, and they've watched you. And the more you observe them, the more you understand how different their world truly is. Their groups are small, maybe a dozen individuals, sometimes fewer. They live in close, tight-knit family units. Their social bonds are deep, but narrow. The Neanderthals rely on those closest to them. Siblings, parents, children. But beyond that, there's no larger web, no distant allies, no cousin bands a 3-day walk away who will take them in during a famine. You, on the other hand, could vanish into the woods and eventually find people who share your stories, your gods, your myths. You could integrate. They can't. They are strong, yes, but also alone. Their lives revolve around physical proximity. They pass knowledge from hand to hand, not mind to mind. A new technique stays local. It does not ripple outward. And when disaster strikes, when a flood washes away a band, or prey migrate, or disease slithers into camp, there's no one to help them rebuild. The fragility of it all feels shocking when you see it. They've been here for so long, and yet they are vulnerable in ways that aren't obvious until the world starts pulling the rug out. Their hunting method is a brutal ballet. No long-distance strikes like your atlatls allow. They go in close. Too close. They fight with spears meant for thrusting, not throwing. They take down creatures many times their size by sheer teamwork and strength, but the price is high. You once found the skeleton of a Neanderthal man, cracked ribs and healed fractures like a map of suffering. Scientists will later compare it to the injuries sustained by modern rodeo riders. Broken arms, dislocated shoulders, smashed knees. This was normal for them. Imagine living a life where injury wasn't if, but when. They survive, though. They endure, but only barely. Their population is small, shockingly small. You don't know the numbers, but you feel it. You can walk for days and never see another Neanderthal. A handful of bands scattered across a continent, separated by forests, rivers, and silence. Their gene pool is shallow, too shallow. They are already inbreeding. Siblings of siblings having children with cousins, generation after generation. And it shows. Some of them walk with a limp, some are sterile, some never reach adulthood. And it's not their fault. It's math. Fewer people means fewer combinations, fewer defenses, fewer chances. And then there's the weather. You've heard your elders speak of strange storms. of warmth returning suddenly, only to vanish in days, of grasslands turning to ice and ice to swamp, with dizzying speed. These are Dansgaard-Oeschger events, though of course you don't call them that. Not yet. They are massive climate whiplashes, swings of up to 10 degrees Celsius in a matter of decades. For a species with a fragile population and little flexibility, this is a death sentence. Imagine being tailored to the cold, stocky, thick, optimized for snow, and then suddenly waking to a humid world where your prey has migrated and your winter fur is now a curse. You can't pack up and leave like a band of sapiens. You don't have the alliances. You don't have the maps etched in stories and memories passed along kinship lines that stretch hundreds of kilometers. Your strength has become your weakness. Historians still debate whether Neanderthal extinction was primarily due to competition with us, climate instability, or their own genetic fragility. Most likely, it was a blend of all three. A cocktail of unfortunate timing and inflexibility. But here's the real heartbreak. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were doing what had worked for hundreds of thousands of years. What had kept them alive through glaciations, through predators, through lean times. What had kept their children fed and their fires burning. But now, it's not enough. Because there's a new kind of human in town. One that doesn't just adapt physically, but culturally. One that builds networks, spreads innovations, and survives by being many things at once. You are watching the slow unraveling of a people who were never truly defeated. Just outpaced. And they don't even know it yet. Not fully. They'll keep going for a while. Decades, centuries, maybe longer in the deep forests and the remote mountains. But the writing is on the cave wall. And one day soon you'll find one of their shelters abandoned, the fire pit cold, a bit of knotted sinew, a discarded tool, and nothing else. No battle, no explosion. Just silence. The air carries the scent of wood smoke and something else. Wet stone, animal sweat, cooked marrow. Your group has made camp in a narrow valley, one rich with game and shaded by ancient pine. But you're not the first to call this place home. Scattered on the cave floor are bits of bone and charcoal, cracked tools dulled by time. This was a Neanderthal site, recently abandoned. You touch the wall, still warm from their fires. There's no sign of a struggle, no violence, just quiet disappearance. You look around. In the corners of the shelter, crude storage pits are dug into the earth. A few splashes of ochre still cling to the stone. These were not squatters. They were people. They lived here. And now, they don't. You're moving into the spaces they once occupied, but not through war, not through conquest, through persistence, through replacement. For thousands of years now, your kind and theirs have shared this continent. Not as enemies locked in battle, but as neighbors, sometimes friendly, often cautious, always aware of each other. In some valleys, you settled. In others, they held on. The overlap was long, quiet, and gradual. But the balance is shifting, and the reasons are subtle, yet deadly. Let's start with your tools. While the Neanderthals cling to heavy, thrusting spears, you now wield a different kind of weapon. The atlatl, a spear thrower. A simple lever, yes, but one that lets you hurl a dart at high speed from a distance. You no longer need to fight face to face. Your prey falls before it ever hears your footstep. And you're not stopping there. You invent sewing needles from bone, stitching together tight, insulating clothes that trap heat. Neanderthals wrap themselves in hides, but you've started tailoring. In a freezing world, that means everything. Then there's your diet. While Neanderthals specialize in large game, you're more flexible. You fish, you trap small birds, you gather nuts, roots, even seaweed. When the mammoths vanish from one region, they suffer. You adapt. And adaptability is the name of the game now. Your social structure gives you the edge. Your people form webs, not threads. Information moves with stunning speed. A new hunting technique learned in one camp spreads to another within a generation. A way to preserve meat, a trick to catch fish, a new use for fire. All of it flows across the network. Neanderthal innovation? It stagnates. A breakthrough in one valley stays there. It dies with the person who invented it. It's like comparing isolated lanterns to a network of electric wires. You are becoming a collective brain, but perhaps the most silent killer is something you can't see, something microscopic: disease. You've come from Africa, land of heat and pathogens. Your immune system has evolved under pressure. You carry viruses and bacteria that, to you, might cause a mild fever. But to Neanderthals, whose immune systems haven't seen these invaders before, it's a massacre. Historians still argue how much of a role disease played. Did you bring plagues? Did sickness sweep through Neanderthal camps in waves, softening them before a single spear was ever raised? We may never know, but we know this: the numbers start to fall. Neanderthal groups dwindle. In some regions, their artifacts vanish from the record. Their fire pits go cold. Their children are fewer. Their tools lie buried, untouched. Meanwhile, your kind is exploding. You don't just survive the cold, you thrive in it. Your population booms. You spread into every corner. And when you find a cave with ashes in the hearth and bones in the dust, you don't stop to mourn. You move in. But the story isn't without nuance. Sometimes you meet them face to face, not as enemies, but as people. There are rumors in your band of a woman who lived with a Neanderthal man, of a child born with strange eyes. These are rare stories, whispered at the edge of the firelight. But they're real, because in your blood, something strange is beginning to stir. You carry more than tools and tales now. You carry them, and we'll come back to that soon. For now, all you know is that something is vanishing around you. One day, your daughter finds a footprint in the mud, wider than yours, deeper, with the signature stride of someone no longer seen. She stares at it for a long time, and then the rain comes, and it washes away. The forest is quiet, but not with the silence of emptiness. It's the hush of watchfulness. Somewhere near the river, another group is making camp. You can't see them through the trees, but you've seen their tracks. Their firelight flickers on the far side of the valley. You've smelled their cooking. It isn't prey. It's people. You're sapiens. They're Neanderthals. But tonight, no one runs. Instead, you draw closer. Slowly. You approach the edge of their camp with your hands empty, visible. The Neanderthal woman who greets you is cautious, her brow heavy with suspicion. But she doesn't raise her spear. She watches, waits. You speak softly, using gestures more than words. You hold out a piece of dried meat. She takes it, barely nods. The next night, your group camps nearby again. A few of theirs wander over, curious. They point to your beads, your clothes. You admire the sharpened tip of one of their spears. And then, like a breath held too long, the tension dissolves. It's not war. It's not romance. It's something stranger. A truce between worlds. An impossible moment. In the days that follow, your children laugh with theirs. A young man in your band spends a little too long helping a Neanderthal girl scrape a hide. No one says anything. No one needs to. And then, months later, a baby is born. He is strong. His skull a little broader, his brow more pronounced. His eyes a different shade. But he suckles, he cries, he sleeps on his mother's chest just like any child. He is the future. You don't know it. But 40,000 years from now, in a room filled with glowing machines, a scientist will study the DNA of a French skeleton. She'll pause, frown, run the test again, and she'll find something astonishing. Inside the genetic code of a modern Homo sapiens, there are fragments that do not belong to us alone. 1% here. 3% there. In every non-African human on Earth today, pieces of Neanderthal DNA remain. Your shared child lived, and his descendants did too. They merged into your people, joined the ever-widening net of sapiens moving across the world. Not erased, absorbed. The evidence isn't just biological, it's functional. Some of those genes helped you survive in these new lands. Neanderthal DNA contributes to skin tone, to how you process sunlight, to how your immune system reacts to viruses. You became better adapted to the cold, to the damp, to the microbial hazards of Europe, thanks to them. One gene might have helped your ancestors ward off ancient strains of influenza. Another strengthened keratin in their skin and hair. A few even-shaped brain development. And yes, one unfortunate Neanderthal gene might be responsible for your occasional terrible sleep. Thanks, cousin. Historians still argue how often these meetings happened, whether they were rare flukes or surprisingly common, whether the unions were loving or coerced. The truth is likely a messy mixture, as most of human history tends to be. But the genetic legacy is undeniable. The last pure Neanderthal populations dwindled and disappeared. Their caves fell silent. Their tools lay untouched. But they didn't vanish entirely, because you are still carrying them. You, the listener, lying in bed, maybe wrapped in a blanket under a soft ceiling light, are part Neanderthal. Your nose, your immune cells, a twitch in your left eyebrow when you're annoyed. Little things, but real things. They live on. They always have. And now, as you cross through another valley, chasing herds beneath a pale Ice Age sun, you realize something you can't quite put into words. The world isn't just full of humans. It's full of ghosts. The air in the cave is thin, still, and strangely sacred. You can feel it the moment you step inside. A cold breath rises from the stone floor. The walls are worn smooth by time, soot-stained from fires long extinguished, and scattered in the dirt, fragments of bone, tools, a tooth. But the real discovery is even smaller. A pinky finger, not a full hand, not a skeleton, just a sliver of bone from a child, barely the size of a walnut shell. You wouldn't even glance at it twice, unless you had the tools of modern science and 40,000 years of hindsight. And when you did, you'd find something shocking. It doesn't belong to you. Not to Homo sapiens, not even to Neanderthals. It belongs to someone else, a different kind of human entirely. You are in Denisova Cave, high in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. The year, at least in your story, is somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 years ago. And while you crouch beside your fire on one end of this cave, you're not the first to do so. This very spot has been used by 3 separate kinds of humans: sapiens, Neanderthals, and now this mysterious third cousin, the Denisovans. Who were they? That's the thing. You don't know. Even now, in the 21st century, scientists are still piecing together their story from the barest scraps. A pinky bone, a few teeth, some environmental DNA clinging to cave sediment. But those few pieces tell a tale of a people who were everywhere, and yet somehow nowhere. They were close relatives of the Neanderthals, maybe siblings, genetically speaking, but distinct, different. And while Neanderthals hugged Europe and Western Asia, Denisovans ruled the East. From the highlands of Tibet to the islands of Southeast Asia, their tracks echo through time. And just like with Neanderthals, you met them. Your kind came through these lands, through cold forests, across windy steppes, into green river valleys and wide plains. And somewhere along the way, your eyes met theirs. And again, there were children. Today, the highest percentage of Denisovan DNA is found not in Europe or Africa, but in the Pacific. Modern Melanesians and Aboriginal Australians carry as much as 5% Denisovan ancestry. You'll find traces in East Asia, in the Philippines, in the Tibetan Plateau. One particular Denisovan gene is still active in some people today. It helps the body function with low oxygen, altitude adaptation. That gene lets Tibetan Sherpas thrive in thin mountain air where most of us would collapse. A gift from a cousin you've never met. Think about that. These people, whose faces you'll never reconstruct fully, whose voices are lost to time, whose tools barely remain, left fingerprints in your blood. Historians still debate how long Denisovans lasted. Did they survive into the time of written history? Were they isolated groups scattered through mountain ranges, holding out in places no one else dared live? It's possible they saw you and retreated, avoiding confrontation. Or perhaps they were absorbed, just like the Neanderthals. We don't know their myths. We don't know their art, but we know they were there. And just like everyone else, they vanished. You sit by your fire and feel the enormity of it, how many versions of us there once were. Not just Neanderthals, not just Denisovans, but an entire shadow family. The world wasn't built for one species of human. It was built for many. And somehow, you ended up the last. As you lie beneath the stars in this cold Siberian cave, that fact presses on your chest like snow. You're not special because you're here. You're special because they aren't. And for every step you take further into Asia, the air feels thicker with ghosts. Ghosts of people who shaped your bones, who kissed your ancestors, who taught you things you never knew you'd learned. The cave flickers with firelight, and your shadow dances on the wall beside those of long-lost cousins. The family reunion is over, but their blood is still in your veins. The jungle here feels like another planet. It presses in from every side, dense, wet, and loud in ways you're not used to. The air is thick with humidity. Insects drone and chirp like broken instruments, and the green around you glows with life so ancient it seems alien. You've reached the islands of Southeast Asia, and it's here, in this lush corner of the world, that you encounter perhaps the strangest members of your human family. You push aside a curtain of vines and spot movement, a flicker of brown between 2 tree trunks. You crouch, watching, expecting an ape, maybe a small deer, but what emerges isn't either. It's a human, or something close. 3 feet tall, head disproportionately large, arms long and strong. Feet, enormous. The proportions are cartoonish, but there's intelligence in the way it moves, in the way it pauses to scan the canopy above. This is Homo floresiensis. The scientists who will discover their bones in a cave called Liang Bua, thousands of years in your future, will nickname them hobbits. And while they're extinct by the time modern humans arrive in large numbers, there's a chance, just a chance, that your ancestors did meet them. Imagine that, walking into a forest and finding another kind of human. Not tall and robust like Neanderthals, not ghost-like and mysterious like Denisovans, but small, child-sized, with stone tools in hand and fire at their feet. Historians still debate whether Homo sapiens and Homo floresiensis ever crossed paths. Some evidence says yes. Others argue the timelines barely overlap. But in places like Flores, legends persist even today of small forest people who speak in cliques and vanish into the undergrowth when spotted. Your ancestors might have whispered those stories too. And how did these hobbits come to be? That's one of the more fascinating wrinkles in the tale. It's called island dwarfism. When a species is trapped on an island with limited resources, evolution starts shrinking it. Large animals become smaller. Tiny ones sometimes grow larger. And humans? They too can shrink. If the island is small enough, if the food is scarce enough, if predators are few and survival favors a smaller frame. Homo floresiensis might be a shrunk-down version of Homo erectus, which brings us to another ghost in the jungle. Homo erectus. This species was the marathon runner of humanity. They emerged nearly 2 million years ago and spread farther than any of their contemporaries. Before you, they were the most successful humans the world had ever known. From Africa to Java to China, they roamed far and wide, leaving behind simple tools and traces of fire use that predate almost every other human achievement. They weren't as clever as you, not even close. Their tools didn't change much for 1 million years, but they were persistent, durable. They made it work. And for a while, you coexisted. Your ancestors crossed into Asia, while the last Homo erectus bands still clung to life in places like Java. These were twilight populations, faded echoes of greatness. You might never have seen them, or you might have caught a glimpse, an upright figure in the distance, not quite modern, not quite ancient, moving along a riverbank and then vanishing into the trees. Imagine being them. Once you ruled this continent. Now you're a relic, outpaced by a faster, smarter cousin with symbols and stories and tailored clothing. Their end is quiet. There's no great war, no fiery extinction, just dwindling numbers, fewer children, shrinking ranges, and eventually, silence. Some scholars believe they might have survived into your era, just barely, hidden in island pockets, fading into myth. The last of them outlasted all others, except you. And as you travel from island to island, the pattern becomes clear. Diversity was the norm. A pygmy hominin here, a shadowy cousin there. Every landmass had its own version of human. And every time you arrived, something changed. The rhythm of the forest shifted. The firelight grew. The stories multiplied. And slowly, the other humans went away. Were they hunted, marginalized, assimilated, left behind? Historians still argue about the details, but the pattern is undeniable. Wherever you go, others vanish. It's not that you were malicious. You were just relentless, adaptive, restless. You didn't destroy the old songs out of hatred. You simply sang louder. Now, as you rest beneath the canopy, listening to the hum of insects and the crackle of your fire, you wonder, what would it have been like to speak with them? To hear the hobbits' myths, to share a meal with Homo erectus, to understand what the world looked like through their eyes? But those questions have no answers now, because you're the only one left to ask them. You step into a world of white silence. The land stretches flat and endless, glittering with frost. The sky above is a pale, frozen blue, and every breath you take stings your throat. There are no trees here, no sheltering caves, just endless tundra, bitter winds, and the distant shape of mammoths moving like shadows across the horizon. You've entered the Mammoth Steppe, the cold heart of Ice Age Eurasia, and you're still here. It doesn't make sense, not at first. You were born for the warmth of Africa, for forests and savannas and rivers that don't freeze. You're not built like a Neanderthal. Your limbs are long, your frame lean, your skin dark and exposed to the wind. You should be dead. And yet, you're not. You huddle inside a shelter made not from wood or stone, but from bones, mammoth bones, carefully stacked and lashed with sinew, covered in hides sewn so tightly that they trap the warmth of your breath. This isn't instinct, it's invention. And that is the key. You haven't adapted your body to survive here. You've adapted your culture, your tools, your clothing, your ideas. While other species wait for generations for their bodies to change, you do it overnight. With a new technique, a better method, a sharper trick. You've crafted needles now, not just awls or punches, but actual needles made from bone, with a carved eye for thread. That might not sound impressive to a modern ear, but in this world it's revolutionary. It means you can make fitted clothes. Not just hides draped over shoulders, but garments with sleeves, leggings, mittens, layers of warmth. You've learned to hunt not just with brute force, but with strategy. You track herds for days, reading the snow like a map. You coordinate drives and ambushes with a dozen others, each moving with silent precision. A mammoth falls, and it feeds the group for weeks. And then there are the tools. Spear points are no longer crude. You craft complex weapons, barbed bone harpoons, flint blades napped so thin they cut like glass. You bind blades to shafts with sinew and pitch. You experiment. You improve. Your shelters evolve. Some are dug into hillsides. Others use packed snow as insulation. Fire pits are lined with stone to hold heat longer. Smoke holes vent warmth just enough without melting the roof. You even paint the walls inside, not with religious icons or kings, but with animals, bison, mammoths, horses, living things you depend on, dream about, fear. You don't just depict them, you animate them. Legs blurred, heads doubled, as if they're moving. It's not decoration. It's memory. Maybe even magic. Somewhere deep in your mind, you've started to believe that drawing something gives you power over it. And maybe it does. Because here you are, flimsy, furless, skin stretched thin over bones, and you've just outsmarted a 10-ton elephant in a blizzard. Not bad. Historians still marvel at this moment in your story. This wasn't supposed to happen. You should have died out long before you reached this place. But instead, you flourished. Why? Because you refused to wait for evolution. You didn't grow fur. You made parkas. You didn't become massive. You built better weapons. You didn't hibernate, you organized. You are using every scrap of your oversized brain. You're planning hunts, mapping the land, learning to predict animal movements based on the tilt of the wind or the way hoarfrost breaks on a tree branch. Your memory stretches across seasons. Your knowledge compounds across generations. You are building culture, and culture is faster than mutation. Your cousins didn't do this. Neanderthals endured the cold with sheer toughness. Denisovans probably stayed close to the highlands they knew. Hobbits never left their island. But you never stop moving, never stop learning, never stop inventing. And because of that, you've done something none of them ever managed. You've cracked open the Arctic. This step, this endless sea of ice and wind, will be your springboard to another world. Because just beyond the fog, across the far edge of the continent, there's a new land waiting. A place no human foot has yet touched. Rich in beasts, wild, untouched. The Americas, but you're not quite there yet. For now, you rest. Your shelter glows with firelight. You share mammoth meat with your band. A child plays with a carved toy in the corner. Someone is singing, soft, repetitive, hypnotic. Outside, the aurora flickers in green ribbons across the sky. Inside, you are warm. And against all odds, you are ready for more. Your feet crunch on frozen soil, but this land feels different. It's quieter, wilder. The air holds a new scent. Pine resin, snow, and something strange, unfamiliar. This isn't Eurasia anymore. This is Alaska. You've crossed over. The land bridge, Beringia, was never meant to last. It rose during the Ice Age, when so much water was locked in glaciers that sea levels fell, revealing a stretch of land between Siberia and North America. For a brief geological heartbeat, the continents kissed. And you, curious and restless, stepped across. It's somewhere between 20,000 and 15,000 years ago. The exact dates are a mess. Historians still argue when the first humans truly entered the Americas. Some say 15,000. Others whisper of footprints 10,000 years older. Maybe your ancestors were among them. What matters now is this. You are here, and you are the first. The first human to see a bison thunder across the prairie. The first to hear the eerie howl of a dire wolf echo across the snowfields. The first to track the massive, slow-moving shape of a giant ground sloth as it browses in the morning mist. You follow the animals, as always. That's the rule. But this land is no copy of the one you left behind. It's more than a new continent. It's a new world. Your kind spreads rapidly. Within a few thousand years, an eye blink, you've gone from Alaska to the southern tip of South America, through forests and deserts, across mountains and rivers. You don't stop, and behind you, a trail of bones. Because as you arrive, something else begins to disappear. The megafauna, giant sloths, mammoths, mastodons, short-faced bears, saber-toothed cats. They've ruled this land for millennia, but within centuries of your arrival, they vanish. Coincidence? Maybe. Climate change plays a role, certainly. The glaciers are retreating, ecosystems are shifting. But the timing is suspicious, and the pattern matches others you've seen. You arrive, the giants disappear. The theory even has a name now. The overkill hypothesis. The idea that you, the ultimate hunter, swept across the Americas like a wildfire. Not with malice, just with hunger, with fire, with traps, with tools, and with numbers. Imagine a mammoth standing 6 meters tall, brought down not by lions or wolves, but by 10 clever humans with spears, coordination, and the patience of predators who can plan days ahead. That's you. Historians still debate the details. Did you wipe out the animals directly? Or did you disrupt their habitats, burn their grazing lands, shatter their food chains? Either way, the result is the same. Gone. And as they fall, you rise. You adapt again, as you always do. In the north, you learn to hunt caribou, build snow shelters, paddle across icy rivers in sealskin boats. On the plains, you stalk bison and create traps miles long. In the mountains, you carve dwellings into cliffs. In the forests, you gather nuts and berries with memory maps so precise they rival any GPS. And always, you bring your stories. You paint on cave walls in Brazil. You carve figures from antler and bone. You build mounds, arrange stones, bury your dead with ceremony. You shape myths from the mountains and the rivers. You become many things, many cultures, many faces, but always human. The Americas are vast and varied, but you never stop. From the icy tundra to the steaming jungles, you walk. And where you walk, the earth reshapes itself around you. Because you're not just an inhabitant anymore, you're a world shaper. This is the moment where you start to become something new. Not just a survivor, not just an explorer, but a force. You tame fire, you tame dogs, you tame the land itself. And soon you'll tame plants. Because even as you cross the last mountain ranges and stand on the edge of the Pacific, your next great invention is already waiting in your hands. Seeds. But not quite yet. For now, you stand at the edge of the world again. You've walked from savanna to tundra, from island to mountain peak, from east to west. And though you don't know it yet, the age of ice is ending. The world is melting. And with it, everything is about to change. You sit on a hillside, watching the mist rise from a newly green valley. The air smells different now, less sharp, more fertile. The snow that once dominated the world is shrinking. The ice sheets are retreating like great slow beasts wounded by the sun. Streams gurgle where glaciers once groaned. Forests are marching northward. It's about 12,000 years ago, and for the first time in millions of years, the Earth belongs to just one kind of human. You. There are no more Neanderthals watching you from across the ravine, no Denisovan cousins tending fires in the caves above, no hobbits rustling through the island ferns, no shadows of Homo erectus stalking the riverbank at dusk. They are gone. You are alone. You don't notice it at first. Extinction is quiet. It doesn't come with a thunderclap. It happens when the last woman of a people dies without daughters. When a group of hunters vanishes in a storm and no one comes to look. When a language is no longer whispered into the ears of children. The absence creeps up on you. A familiar scent no longer caught on the wind. A footprint you haven't seen in a generation. A bone tool left on the ground, too well made to be yours, but too old to still be used. And then one day you realize there are no others anymore, just your people, your voices, your gods. For the first time since before fire, you are it. You didn't notice when the world was full of humans, because it always had been. Different kinds of people, Short ones, tall ones, some with strange brows or stocky limbs or ancient eyes, some whose tools were foreign, some whose songs didn't match yours. And now, their stories. You look up at the stars, those same stars your Neanderthal cousins watched, wide-eyed and cold in their furs, and you wonder, what did they see? What did they think? A Neanderthal philosopher? Did he sit by the fire and ponder his place beneath the sky? Did he mourn the mammoth herds and tell his children that the world was changing too fast? Did he wonder if others existed beyond the mountains, and whether they were kind? A Denisovan elder, what tales did she tell? Did she know the mountain gods by name? Did she describe spirits in the glacier wind, the ones that carried messages between the worlds? A hobbit hunter? How did it feel to live on a small island where the trees leaned close and the elephants were your size? What was joy to him? What was love? We will never know. You didn't just lose species, you lost ways of thinking. Entire psychologies, entire worldviews, entire realities. Your myths won, but theirs disappeared. And maybe, just maybe, we lost something irreplaceable. Historians still argue whether they could have survived longer, if climate had shifted differently, if chance had favored them, if you had shared more and conquered less. It's tempting to imagine a world where you coexist still, where Earth is a planet of 5 or 6 kinds of humans, not just one. Imagine a Neanderthal poet, a Denisovan astronomer, a hobbit sculptor, a Homo erectus elder telling stories in a low, gravelly tongue while the fire flickers and a child falls asleep against his shoulder. They're all gone now. You remain. It's a strange kind of victory, one that doesn't feel like winning, because to win, you had to outlast a family. And you're not even sure you remember their names anymore, but their shadows still stretch beside yours, in your DNA, in your hands, in your stories. You carry them without realizing it. And now, as the ice melts and the rivers swell and the grass turns gold in the sun, something shifts inside you. You feel it, an ache, a knowledge, that you're walking in a world that used to echo with other voices, and now it's just your own. You look at your child playing in the grass, laughing, and you hope. You hope your kind will remember. You are sitting by the edge of a field. The snow is gone, the grass is green, the sun is warm, and for the first time in many lifetimes, the seasons feel stable. You look around, and something ancient inside you knows. The world is changing. Not the way it did when glaciers advanced, or when mammoths fell extinct. This change isn't being written in ice or fire, it's being written in choice. You dig a hole and place a seed inside. A simple act, almost laughably small. But you've just started something that will reshape everything. The agricultural revolution is coming, and with it, the next great leap. But before we go forward, let's pause. Let's look back at what brought you here. Because the story of your survival, the story of why you, and not the Neanderthals, not the Denisovans, not the hobbits, became the last human standing, is not simple. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a straight line. It's a web. A tangle of luck, invention, and persistence. You survived because you were adaptable. When the world froze, you didn't grow fur. You made coats. When the rivers shifted, you found new routes. When your prey disappeared, you learned to fish, to trap, to forage. You weren't the strongest. You weren't the fastest. but you were the most flexible. You survived because you could cooperate. No other species before you, or since, has figured out how to make thousands of strangers trust each other based on nothing but a shared myth. Gods, nations, tribes, totems, all fictions, but powerful ones. You believed together, and because you believed, you built together. You survived because you shared knowledge. A clever idea in one camp became standard practice 3 valleys over by the next generation. You didn't just have one brain. You had thousands, linked by language, memory, and curiosity. You built a collective mind. And yes, let's be honest, you survived because of luck. A better climate at just the right moment. A mutation that helped you think a little more clearly. A single spark that became a fire on a cold night, saving a child who would later become an ancestor to millions. You are not just the victor of some ancient race. You are the sum of 1,000 accidents, the beneficiary of timing, the inheritor of others' failure. And within you, their whispers still live. Every time you fight off a cold, thank your Neanderthal genes. Every time you look across a mountaintop without gasping, you may owe it to a Denisovan twist of DNA. Their lives were not wasted. They became part of you. So here you are now, just you, the solitary ape. All other versions of human life have ended. All the alternate paths, all the different what-ifs, all the experiments, gone. You are the only one who made it. Historians still argue about the morality of it. Did you destroy your cousins? Did you merge with them? Did you win by being better or by being faster? Were you cruel or just inevitable? The truth is, it doesn't really matter anymore, because now you're holding all the keys. You are planting seeds that will grow into cities. You are shaping rivers, building walls, forming hierarchies, dreaming up laws. You are about to become not just human, but civilization. And that's where tonight's story ends. But your story is only beginning. Because you are the last human standing, and the world, for better or worse, is now yours alone. So as you close your eyes tonight, ask yourself this. Now that you're alone, what will you do with it? What kind of ancestor will you become? What kind of world will you leave behind? Because the silence of your cousins echoes still, and you are the only one left to answer it. So now, as the campfire in your mind dims and the shadows grow longer, let the noise of ancient footsteps fade. Let the mammoths retreat into the mist. Let the cold caves of Europe fall silent once more. You've walked a long path tonight, across continents, through ice and jungle, among families now vanished. You've sat beside their fires, heard their stories in the hush of wind and the crunch of frost. You've carried their memory gently, like embers cupped in your palms. And though you are the only human left in this tale, you are never truly alone. They are still with you, in your bones, in your blood, in the dreams that visit when the world goes quiet. So breathe slowly now, in and out. Let the rhythm of the past slow your heartbeat. Let the warmth of ancient hands guide you gently into sleep. No more hunting, no more marching, no more wondering what waits over the next hill. For tonight, there is only rest. The stars still shine above the savannah, the fires still flicker in distant caves. And you're here, safe, still, the last human, drifting gently into dreams.